How the U.S. debt crisis affects us all. The United States national debt is more than just a large, abstract figure discussed in the news. It's a deeply influential force that directly and indirectly affects every one of us. Whether we realize it or not, this growing debt touches our daily lives, altering the economy in ways that impact our savings, loans, jobs, and even the cost of living. As the debt continues to rise, so do the risks of inflation, higher taxes, and financial instability. Understanding how the debt crisis affects both individuals and the economy as a whole is essential because this is not just a government issue, it's everyone's issue. The root of the crisis lies in government spending exceeding revenue. To bridge that gap, the U.S. borrows money by issuing bonds and securities. However, just like a personal credit card balance, these loans come with interest. As the national debt grows, so does the interest the government has to pay. This creates a snowball effect. More of the federal budget must be set aside to pay interest, leaving less available for essential services like education, healthcare, and infrastructure. When debt spirals out of control, inflation becomes a serious threat. With the government injecting more money into the economy, the purchasing power of the dollar weakens. What this means for us is simple. Things get more expensive. Groceries, rent, fuel, and everyday essentials slowly become less affordable. Your paycheck doesn't stretch as far as it once did, and even small luxuries can start feeling like unnecessary splurges. Over time, inflation erodes savings, forcing people to spend more of their income just to maintain their standard of living. Rising debt also impacts interest rates in a significant way. As investors begin to question the government's ability to manage its finances, they demand higher returns for the loans they provide through government bonds. This, in turn, drives up interest rates across the board, affecting everything from mortgages and car loans to credit card debt. When borrowing becomes more expensive, fewer people can afford to take out loans, and businesses struggle to invest in growth. This not only reduces consumer spending, but also slows down job creation, making it harder for the economy to expand. At the same time, the government often feels pressure to cut spending to manage the debt. These budget cuts frequently affect public services that millions of people rely on. Schools, healthcare facilities, infrastructure projects, and social programs are often the first to see reductions. When funding for these services dries up, job losses tend to follow, creating ripple effects that weaken the broader economy. Fewer jobs mean less income, which further depresses consumer spending and slows economic recovery. For individuals planning for the future, the debt crisis introduces even more uncertainty. Stock markets become sensitive to economic instability, meaning investments like pensions, 401k retirement plans, and mutual funds become riskier. A sudden downturn in the market can wipe out years of savings in the blink of an eye. Retirees and investors relying on these assets face heightened risks, and financial security becomes harder to maintain. Globally, the U.S. debt crisis could diminish confidence in the U.S. economy. Right now, the dollar serves as the world's reserve currency, meaning many countries use it for international trade and investment. But if the world loses faith in the strength of the U.S. economy, the dollar could weaken. This would make imports, such as electronics, cars, and oil, more expensive, driving up prices at home. A weaker dollar could also increase the cost of servicing foreign debt, adding to the financial strain. What's even more concerning is the impact this debt will have on future generations. Every dollar borrowed today is a dollar that must be repaid tomorrow, either through higher taxes, reduced services, or even more borrowing. If the debt continues to grow unchecked, our children and grandchildren will face an economy burdened by debt obligations. They could inherit fewer opportunities, sluggish economic growth, and a higher cost of living, all while being taxed heavily to cover the interest payments we accumulate now. The consequences of the debt crisis extend far beyond the numbers discussed by economists and politicians. It affects the stability of our financial system, the cost of borrowing, the value of our savings, and the opportunities available to us and future generations. Inflation chips away at purchasing power, higher interest rates make loans less accessible, and government budget cuts reduce the quality of public services. Even if you don't follow economic news, the reality is that the debt crisis has a direct impact on your life, from the bills you pay today to the future you plan for tomorrow. Ultimately, the U.S. debt crisis is a shared challenge. It affects the individual as much as it does the nation. Without careful management and meaningful policy changes, the consequences will only grow more severe. As the debt continues to rise, so will the pressure on families, businesses, and investors. Everyone, from lawmakers to everyday citizens, will need to grapple with the hard choices required to solve this crisis, because the stakes are simply too high to ignore. The decisions made today will shape not only our lives, but the future for generations to come.